Guides. I'm Carrie.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Bree.
Today we are taking you on a tour of Atlanta. I've never been to Atlanta, but I've driven through Georgia, and that's about as close as I got.
I have never stayed there or anything. I have been to their airport many times. It is very functional, and having to sprint through it a couple of times to make connections. It's nice, and my dad goes a lot for work, and he really likes it there. But I have never gone and stayed in Atlanta, but I would like to one day.
We're going to do a Savannah episode.
Yes.
And we're all going to stay there and record our episode there because I want to go to Savannah.
Yes.
I would love to go to Savannah as well.
Birthplace of Girl Scouts.
Also, super haunted.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I've only ever been to the Atlanta airport on layovers, and I was a minor, so they stuck me in a tiny room with a bunch of other minors who I was way too mature for.
Ha!
No, but for real, though, I was going to kill them all. Just kidding. Anyway.
I think your look said it all.
They were awful. Like,
Yeah.
I was a child, and I was like, ew, children.
I mean,
Ugh.
yeah, accurate.
If you guys hear me casually scrolling, I'm looking for a new comforter for Carrie.
How the fuck are they going to hear you scrolling, Catherine?
Because sometimes I'm like,
You're
So if you hear
ridiculous.
Catherine humming, it's
what color do you want?
our sheets.
Not
for
turtle
Our,
colored.
well,
Yeah,
um,
at Zach.
well, because I'm hoping when we get the house, we'll get a king bed. And so our king bed sheets are light blue and light green.
Yeah, my mom got them for you.
Mm-hmm. So you get one set.
The green ones, I think.
Yeah.
They're the Costco ones. They're the freaking best.
Oh, they're so good.
Okay.
Anyway, so
I'll keep scrolling. Don't mind me.
okay. Our drink this week is from Sweetwater Brewery in Atlanta. My cousin and her husband have been here, and they say it's amazing. Like, it's just a really good experience. If I'm wrong about this, I'm sorry, but she said that they walked in, they basically handed her like 6 tokens, and they paid like $10. And it was basically, a token was a drink.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so it was super affordable, and they got a really good deal on it, and they were like, I can't remember if they were going to a ball game or something, but they didn't have a whole lot of time. And so they just gave their tokens to other people, and they're like, hell yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So there were a couple really good articles that just had good write-ups about Sweetwater Brewery, and then I'll get to our actual beer. So Thrillist had this to say: if the city has a default beer, it's Sweetwater 420. You see that iconic bottle featuring the floppy fish at office parties, backyard barbecues, and everywhere else people should or shouldn't be drinking. But the folks behind the beer aren't resting on the past successes like their blueberry wheat ale or the IPA, nor should they be with so much great beer popping up all over town. They recently opened the Woodlands, a next-door facility where they're barrel aging and souring beers of all sorts. And they continue to be one of the most consistently patronized breweries in town, even when that hole in I-85 made it hard to get to the tap room. They've also kept creating new pourables in the Hatchery series. The Black Lager and Chocolate Milk Stout are standouts. And through limited releases, the wonderfully hazy and unfiltered Fresh Sticky Nugs Double IPA. Nugs. Keep coming in, Atlanta.
Sticky nugs.
Sticky Nugs. The water's still fine and keeps getting finer.
Cute.
So yeah, there's that nice write-up from Thrillist. The specific beer we are trying is the 420 strain Mango Kush. So from their website, a second sticky hit from 420 strain, an American wheat packed with herbal and juicy mango notes, and a distinctive dank nose.
You right. It does. Though.
Yeah. Strain specific whoa, that's a word.
They are all words, Carrie. We speak them.
I know.
Our life literally revolves around words.
I know. I don't know how to pronounce this one.
I see.
Terpenes?
Okay.
Terpenes.
Terpines?
Oh.
But it's eaten.
ENES. It looks like terpenes.
Terpenes?
Terpenes?
Sure. And natural
Turbines?
hemp type flavors complement the hop and malt bill, delivering a euphoric ale with that fresh olfactory bonus rip. Flavor profile: dank, tropical, herbal, juicy, melon.
I'm so glad I can't drink beer.
So it is an American wheat. So a little bit about American wheat beer. It's a lighter beer that's similar to a German Hefeweizen or even Weissbier. Shout out to Berlin episode.
Hey.
Berliner Weisse.
Yeah. In fact, it's believed that the American wheat beer was inspired by the unfiltered wheat beers of Bavaria. So don't be surprised if it has a cloudy appearance, because unfiltered beers just tend to be cloudy.
With a
Granted,
side
we're
of
drinking these
meatballs?
from the amber.
Chance of meatballs.
With a chance
Something
of
with
meatballs.
meatballs.
With a side of meatballs.
I corrected and said with a
Marie.
chance, and then I said something with meatballs. Okay, covering all my bases. There are meatballs.
I don't remember what I was saying because I didn't write it down, but it just okay.
Oops.
However, the Hefeweizen uses a particular yeast to achieve flavors like banana and clove, and the American wheat uses its own special yeast, the Weist.
Oh, West or East. I thought you said Weast.
Okay, but it's spelled Wyeast.
Weast.
Wyest. It's the
Why-
Wyest.
Weist.
Woost.
And it could have been a typo on the website. I went with it because it was like an actual like beer website that told you about beer. So I was like, I'm trusting you.
Calling it the Wyest.
Y yeast 1056, aka the American ale yeast. And it gives it flavors like raspberries, watermelon, and chilies. It's not too bitter, but it does have hoppiness from the American hops, which is an actual strain of hops, and typically is lower in alcohol. So I think this one is like 5% alcohol.
Every time you say hops, I just want to be like, hip, a hop. Kangaroo Jack. What?
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I was at a wedding this weekend, and at the rehearsal, I was talking with the pastor's wife, and we were in rocking chairs, and our little rocking chairs were like overlapped. And she was like, you dip, or I dip, you dip. And she paused, and I was like, we dip. And I was like,
fantastic.
this is the pastor's wife. She is so cool. But yeah, so that's our drink for the week, is 420 Mango Kush Wheat Ale.
Woot woot.
And I'm not getting a whole lot of mango. It is very dank, though.
Oh, fuck yeah, it's dank. Woo! Yeah, buddy.
As I laugh into the bottle. Can you hear that?
Okay.
I'm trying to maneuver without dropping my mic and my beer.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about food.
Talk about sex, baby.
Better.
It's the same thing.
That's
better as food.
Food for
So
the soul, food for the belly.
yeah. So Atlanta is. So I love cooking. I watch a ton of cooking shows. And actually, what got me so inspired for cooking for Atlanta is the show called Ugly Delicious. So it's a documentary food show on Netflix with David Chang, and he actually has 2 on there that are very interesting. But he did a whole Atlanta episode that focused on fried chicken and the historical and cultural importance of fried chicken. So growing up in America, it's pretty common, but I did not realize how important it is in Black history.
Oh, yeah.
And so the show does a really great job of explaining it, because you get to hear Black cooks and Black chefs talk about their fried chicken process. But so fried chicken actually started in China. And
Interesting.
and that's where the first fried chicken was. But apparently, like, frying birds is just like the best,
yeah.
which if you've ever had fried chicken, it is.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting talking about it. And Atlanta has a huge food culture. I would argue, like, Louisiana and Atlanta in, like, the United States American South have the most diverse food cultures because there was so many options. But I did a full meal today, completely from scratch.
And it was delicious.
So I did fried chicken. I did black-eyed peas with greens. I did cornbread. And I did homemade peach cobbler. And I made everything from scratch. So it took a very long time. Everything was gluten-free. And I did make a healthier version. So it was like oven-fried chicken. But that's just because where my fire alarm is means I would have set it off constantly if I had actually tried to pan fry it. But it turned out really well.
It did.
For being gluten-free, it's really hard to get coating to stick on. and I just used pancake mix, and I was able to coat it with that, and the sugar in it helped it to stay on.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Really well.
And we had some really beautiful fresh peaches here because, you know, we're still in the South in the summertime. So it's all fresh peaches, cut them up myself, made the filling before I baked it with the topping. It was pretty tasty. And it is such a cultural phenomenon in the South. And, you know, peaches are obviously super important in Georgia. So that is what I made. And I was pleased with it. I'm full.
Oh, I want seconds so bad.
Yep, and I want to curl up in a ball and take a nap.
Yeah, I meant it took me all day today to do this correctly. But after watching the documentary and seeing how important it was, and there's a couple of questions he's asking a lot of these chefs, and almost all of them were Black or African American, like asking, like, should other people, like, not make fried chicken? Like, is it just for the Black community? And they were all like, no, have you ever had fried chicken? It's amazing. And so it was really interesting. But it's a super good documentary, and you should check it out. That's my favorite episode just because it is so unique to talk about. Because, like, the origins, I'm not going to go into it, but there is a whole origin of fried chicken and how it was used to, like, both manipulate Black culture and to celebrate Black culture, depending on who was talking about it. And, like, so Popeyes still uses the iconic, like, Black mom for their marketing. And so they're literally using Black culture as a stereotype to market fried chicken, and it's so ingrained. So it's super interesting. You should watch it. This was a slightly healthier gluten-free version, but it was damn good. So yeah, that's our food for today. I did use whole chicken because that's the traditional way to do it, with bone in, so it's not like a chicken nug or a chicken tender. But I bet you I could make some awesome nugs this way too, so that may be in the near future. So yeah, it was super good. I'm planning on eating more cobbler in just a couple minutes, if you want me to be honest. So
Sounds like a plan to me.
yeah.
So I'm going to, I forgot what I was going to say, how to say it. Step away from the norm. That's not the words, but you know what I mean.
Take a step back.
Well, I'm going to do something a little out of the ordinary for me. So,
Ooh.
This is getting crazy.
I told you guys about this, though. So I was actually, in my research, I found this other podcast called The Bitter Southerner.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. And they have this episode called The Exactly Right Cake. And so it actually talks about the, like, historical relevance of baking, especially in the South, and what that meant. Because it's like paying a tribute to the departed as repayment for kindnesses while alive. Major Southern tradition. So, like, when people passed, obviously they baked things. But it also talked about who made the cakes. Because, like, pound cake, jam cake, coconut cake, all that stuff, they're labor-intensive cakes. They were made by slaves because it's prior to the bitchinades and electricity.
Yeah.
And so they needed someone
call them
strong.
bitchinades?
I sure as shit did. Shit.
I love all my KitchenAid appliances. Thank
want
you
one
for my
so
wedding
badly.
gifts, everyone who gave me KitchenAid things. I love them, and I can't wait to have a big enough kitchen to actually set them all
I
up.
know. I haven't even taken my KitchenAid that I got out of its box
Same.
because I literally do not have space for it. I have 1 square foot
Yeah.
of counter space, and so I haven't taken it out. But she's so pretty, and I just
know.
want to use her.
I'm
want
so
one so
excited to get mine out.
badly.
I did get my little hand mixer out for Easter, and then I got my food processor. That was a good one.
Nice. But yeah, they needed someone who was strong and dedicated and a good cook to make all of these. So the quote, "Bless this food and the hands that made it," that was the slaves. It was recognizing, you know, them and the people who are no longer with them. But it also had to do with, like, the ease of access to the ingredients and all of that, because you couldn't just go to Walmart or Trader Joe's and, like, buy frosting or whatever.
Right.
So it had a lot to do with that as well. So there are these sisters in Atlanta named Tracy and Kelly Wright, and they do healthy baking. A quote from them: "Cake should never be the first or the last thing someone has to give up in order to be healthier." So they take the guilt out. Their bakery's called Dough Girls, and it pays tribute to
That's
two dope
so
boys in a
cute.
Cadillac because they have roots in hip hop, you know. So pop culture and baking is like really huge, especially in the South, and they actually have like a lot of Outkast references. So
awesome.
yeah, it's great, and they are wonderful. Like I loved this whole episode, but they were really trying to make baking healthier, especially in the Black community, because they were saying a lot of Black people have health problems, you know, related to cooking
Yeah.
and the foods they eat. So they wanted them to still be able to have treats. But
Right.
so if they don't make everything like vegan or gluten-free or whatever, then they will make it as healthy as possible. Like they do so much research, put so much research and time into this, like, and it'll take them years sometimes to perfect a recipe because they're trying to make it healthier, but they also want to stick to the spirit of the baked
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
So like
you-
a pound cake, you can't
Pound of
change
butter.
Pound of
certain-
butter.
Yeah, you can't change certain shit in that.
Right.
So they're like, we recognize that, so we're trying to find the best ingredients, you know. But
Well,
yeah.
it's, you know, you said they have a lot of health problems. Well, there's a lot of inequality with healthcare in the Black community. I was reading some articles recently because it's very relevant now.
Yeah.
But talking about specifically Black women and not getting the care that they need because the doctors think they're overreacting, or they don't really take them seriously, or they don't actually.
Or the number of Black mothers who die in childbirth compared to white mothers who
Yeah,
die in
right.
childbirth.
Yep.
Well, and like denying them tests because
Yeah.
they're like, hey, I think this is going on. I want to get this test. And they're like, no, you don't need to get that tested. But if a white woman came in and asked for it, they probably would do it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you ask for a test to get something done and they refuse, have them put it on your file. Say, you know, you refuse to give me this test, so that way if it comes back later, it's on your file that they refused.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot that go into health problems in the Black community, and
Yeah. And they're just trying to, you know, help in any small way that they can. And I mean, small way, it's major. They're
Oh, yeah.
also like, so
That's awesome.
they own the business. And so it's a business owned by two Black women, and they're trying to set an example, you know, for their family and in their community. But they're also trying to give people like second chances.
right.
So, like, to come work for them and stuff, people who are downtrodden and haven't been given other chances. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought that
That's
was really
amazing.
neat. So,
Yeah, I will have to hit them up, especially
hell yeah.
if they have some
Yeah.
gluten-free options. Thank you, ladies.
So, I was excited about that. I found that, and I was like, I thought of you guys, and it was so applicable to the episode, and I was like, this isn't usually my
No, that's
section,
cool.
but yeah.
We're
that's
doing some
awesome.
nice shout-outs because, you know, America, we tend not to focus on our well, not tend. We don't focus on
blatant
Black
problems.
history. Well, we don't focus on Black history. It's just not part of school curriculums. It's not part of what we know. And Atlanta is a massive cultural city for Black Southern culture.
Oh, we about to
yeah.
get all
Yeah.
the Black history.
So it's important to talk about and to shout out the things that we're learning because, like I said, didn't know any of it, and I'm someone who knows history and knows cooking. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's important to know that there's still so much learning that we can do and to pay homage to those
Yeah.
chefs and who are making the food
Positive
that is
change in their
delicious.
community.
Well, and just like bomb-ass food.
We like food.
Both.
We do like food and positive change. Okay, history. So this is Georgia first, and then we'll specifically go to Atlanta. So prior to the European exploration,
It's okay, we're all having problems tonight.
So before Georgia even became Georgia, the Creek, Cherokee, and Yamasee Native Americans all lived in what is now Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Spanish and English traders came in, and everyone was fighting over it. But eventually the British won, as they always do, and they set up shop, and MP James Oglethorpe petitioned to make Georgia a colony for the impoverished of England. He was able to get a royal charter to do just that for Georgia in 1732. Originally, slavery was actually forbidden in Georgia by the colony's trustees, which was not done in any other colony.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. But But they took it back in 1749
Shocker.
when they realized just how profitable the plantation economy would be in Georgia, considering
yeah.
its prosperous agriculture.
Your debts are
Yeah.
paid because you don't pay for labor.
And
Sorry, Hamilton. It's just so perfect and
in my
eloquent.
head all day. That's literally all I listen to this past
That's all I listen to
ever.
all the time.
So indigo, rice, and sugar were all extremely profitable in Georgia.
Oh yeah, because denim.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they helped to significantly boost the economy. So while supporting the other colonies, Georgia mostly stayed out of the American Revolution, making only one demand: no taxation without representation.
Sure they did.
Yeah.
So if you thought Georgia's agriculture was killing it prior to the Revolution, kicked it into high gear following, and thanks to the creator of the cotton gin, Eli Whitney.
Yep.
Yeah.
Along with a massive population increase, this agricultural boost also meant slaves were still being imported.
Oof.
Yeah. Georgia seceded from the Union and joined the Confederacy during the Civil War in an attempt to, quote-unquote, preserve their economic prosperity.
Slavery.
In other words,
Yeah.
so lazy fucks could continue getting rich off of the enslaved's hard work under horrible conditions, often at the expense of their lives. Let's call a
Yeah.
fucking spade a spade here, folks.
So last week I visited Philadelphia, where I'm from. Went to go visit family, and Colin had never been. And so we drove over to Gettysburg because like Constitution Hall and everything was closed because of
Yeah.
it. But Gettysburg is a field, so we couldn't go into the museum or anything. But we drove over to Gettysburg. And we were like looking around, and how many thousands of men were killed on that
Yeah.
spot. And we saw, and like you think about what they died for, and you just like. People who still, I just don't understand, maybe because I'm such a Yankee, but like the whole Confederate flag situation that we're having, it literally doesn't exist anymore.
As a born and raised Texan, I agree. And also, the Confederate flag that they're flying now is not the actual Confederate flag that they flew back then. So you are literally
they lost.
idolizing
It doesn't-
a fake flag.
it doesn't-
representing a quote-unquote nation, whatever, that lost.
It literally. And
And you
like,
had to go
ooh.
crawling back. to
And
the
how many
Union
people lost their lives because of, it's just.
Because of
it's-
selfishness. Pure-ass selfishness.
Yeah.
And
it-
laziness. Like, tend your own crops, you lazy fucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pop out more babies yourself. Oh, wait.
So what we
You
didn't-
did that with the slaves.
Yeah, so it was really interesting, and like I don't know, I am such a history-based person, but being able to go see
Yeah.
like
Oh,
the
yeah.
cemetery, and we saw the little hospital. It's literally
Aw.
the size of this living room that we're sitting in right now, and where those people were trying to save the lives of these men who were hit with freaking musket balls that just festered away, and it was horrible. And it's really, I don't know, just with right now with everything that's happening in our political climate. And I was talking to my younger sister, she's 18, and I was telling her, I'm like, well, because her college is being affected with the pandemic, I'm like, yeah, we're going through a lot. I'm like, there are major events that change who we are. I was like, 9/11 changed the way that we live. For me, that was a huge one. I'm like, you have, like, Sandy Hook changed who I am because of my age. She has the pandemic, and she has the political movements that are happening right now to try and bring America to what we claim to be. And I think it's important that people understand that. And taking her to Gettysburg, I think, helped because it is, you
It's
know,
so much more impactful when you can stand
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
on history.
And you can just see the land going for miles and miles and know that this is what changed.
Yeah.
This battlefield, all those people who gave their lives for the North on this piece of land
Yeah.
helped end slavery. Like,
and history
we stood.
leaves a shadow in
Yeah.
places like that.
We
and
stood
you
where
can
Lincoln
feel it. It's
gave
like
the
a
Gettysburg
tangible-
Address, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool, and it really ties into what we're doing right now for this episode. And I'll talk more about other things we did when we do our Philly episode, but I just wanted to shout that out because it is important because
It was an integral part of
Yeah.
all of this.
yeah, and we're still dealing with the after effects
Yep.
now. So
Yep. Well, Georgia got its ass handed to it during the war, especially with General Sherman's March to the Sea, during which he burned Atlanta to the ground, leaving destruction in his wake all throughout Georgia. So even though slavery was supposed to end with the Civil War, that didn't mean things were suddenly just all hunky-dory, especially in Georgia.
Sure.
Black people didn't
What?
really start
People
seeing...
didn't suddenly change?
I know. So fucking
What?
weird.
Crazy. It's like we're still dealing with this shit now.
I know.
Can't even get people to wear a goddamn mask.
I know.
Yeah.
Black people didn't really start seeing equality in Georgia until the Civil Rights Movement, which started in the 1940s, even though Jim Crow was enacted in the late 1800s. And even still in the 40s, there was a long ways to go. Shit. Like you said, there's still a long ways to go today.
Oh,
as evidenced
input
by the
real
current
quick about the Jim
situation.
Crow laws. So
Yeah.
you know the Jim Crows in Dumbo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see on Disney Plus the little disclaimer they have beforehand?
Yes.
It's interesting.
I did
It is.
not.
It's like this is clearly, basically what it boils down to is this is clearly a representation of the time. We do not believe this.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which is interesting coming from a company led by a infamous raging anti-Semitic, but still we're making strides. And, you know, when we unfreeze his head and he comes back, maybe he'll have learned the error of his ways.
I'd be in a shock.
But so it was just interesting because
Yeah.
little me had no concept. They're literally
yeah.
called the Jim Crows.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? Are you serious? I literally was like, like how did this? Who could? What? I was horrified, but at least they're attempting.
Yeah.
They're making it noted to future generations that this is a no.
This is not okay.
Dumbo's also terrifying. My kids will not be watching it.
I cry every time.
It's horrible.
Sad.
It's horrible.
Yes.
I can't watch the new one. The new one's pretty.
I haven't
Yeah.
even bothered.
Oh, I did.
Don't bother. It's not good.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So Atlanta was founded in 1837. It was at the end of the Atlantic and the Western Rail Line.
Ah.
So the name
Atlanta.
progression
Need to don't
started
leave
as
me.
Marthasville after the governor's daughter,
babies.
but Terminus was the nickname because it was at the end of the line.
Terminus. That's kind of badass.
I know, right? And it soon changed to the feminine version of Atlantic for the Atlantic Railroad, which is how it became Atlanta.
Oh, cool.
That's a good name.
Yeah. It was dubbed the city too busy to hate in the 60s, and now the city not too busy to care. Speaking of the 60s, Atlanta is intrinsically linked to the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Some diehards still think of it as the quote-unquote heart of the old Confederacy.
No.
But Atlanta is actually a great example of the New South because it has adapted with the times. Fuck.
Even though the KKK headquarters is there.
Oh,
Yeah.
But fuck those guys.
Fuck those guys.
And of course, they're still around, but Black Panthers were disbanded for trying to protect themselves
Yep.
against the KKK.
Yep.
Literally, the only KKK thing that's worth watching is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh yeah.
So good.
That's amazing.
I think I have a reference later on.
I talk about it every episode. Continue, Brie.
But yeah, adapted with the times and become a modern city, but Atlanta still recognizes and is proud of its heritage. February of 1960, students from Morehouse College, including Julian Bond, Lonnie King, Joseph Pierce, and a number of other students, met at what was then Yates and Milton Drugstore to begin what would become a major phase in the civil rights movement. They were inspired by other student sit-ins at a Woolworths.
Yep.
What?
Oh, brother, we're at the in North Carolina. But this became more than just a singular sit-in. The Atlanta student movement included not only sit-ins.
Welcome back, Colin.
It's okay.
Colin had to go blow out the tiki torches.
Okay, not only sit-ins, but also picketing and marches, which helped bring about the desegregation of private and public places that had previously excluded access and or service to people of color.
Yeah.
Quote, the Atlanta University Center was philosophically committed to the principles of nonviolent disobedience as taught by Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Speaking of Martin Luther King Jr., we got a fat-ass section on him because he deserves it.
Oh, good.
So, he was born in Atlanta in 1929, named Michael Luther King Jr., came from a family of pastors of the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, and beginning with his grandfather in 1914. So, Martin Luther King Jr. graduated high school at the age of 15 from a still segregated school.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, he's so
Young.
fucking impressive. So, this is from the Nobel Peace Prize
Oh.
website. And so that's why my citation is like legit, because I
Yeah.
copied it from their website. They're like, you have to put it this way. And I'm like, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
15. That's
Yeah,
wild.
so he's so fucking impressive. He got his Bachelor of Arts in 48 from Morehouse College. He received the BD in 1951 after studying theology for 3 years at a seminary in Pennsylvania, during which time he was elected by the mostly white senior class to be president.
Wow.
Yep, he completed his residence for his doctorate in 1953 following his graduate studies at Boston University, and he got his degree in 1955. It was in Boston that he met his wife.
Coretta.
Yes. In 54, he became a pastor in Alabama, where he was a member of the executive committee of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He was the leader of the, quote, first great Negro nonviolent demonstration of contemporary times in the United States. Side note, this is a direct quote. I have to quote it this way in accordance with the site's regulations, and they note in there that they recognize Negro is no longer a term that is considered
Right.
politically correct. But that is,
PC.
yeah.
But can we pause and talk about the fact that Bree said this away?
Wait, what?
You said, I have to quote it this away.
I am my grandmother.
It was funny.
very
Okay,
southern.
continue. It was very charming.
The bus boycott. Oh, yeah. This had to do with the bus boycott, which lasted 382 days. During which time his house got bombed, he got arrested, and he endured personal abuse. In 57, he was elected the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, leading the civil rights movement. Quote, the ideals for this organization he took from Christianity, its operational techniques from Gandhi. From 1957 to 68, he traveled all over, giving speeches in places of unrest over 2,500 times. He also wrote a number of articles in 5 books during this time, and it was at this time that he led the protest in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
He led 250,000 people in a peaceful march on Washington, D.C., where he delivered his I Have a Dream address. He was assaulted at least 4 different times, arrested more than 20, and also awarded 5 honorary degrees.
Also, his entire family was targeted by, like, who threatens a child
Yep.
Right.
for a father who's fighting for equality?
Yep.
Like, what the hell is wrong with
Yeah.
people? A child, little babies.
Mhm.
My God.
He was
And of course,
named.
we're seeing parallels now, and it's
Yeah.
just disgusting.
Yeah. No shit. He was named Man of the Year in the 1963 Time magazine issue. He conferred with JFK and campaigned for LBJ. And at 35, he became the youngest man to have ever received the Nobel Peace Prize.
Jeez.
Like, shit, what
Yeah,
a
well,
man.
He was a overachiever from a young age,
No
apparently.
shit.
Just in general.
Yeah. Sadly, this brilliant light was extinguished on April 4th, 1968, when he was assassinated on the balcony of a motel room in Memphis, where he was leading a peaceful protest in sympathy with, I think it was the garbage truck drivers or something along those lines. But yeah,
Sounds right.
he was there to lead a peaceful protest in sympathy with, those people, and he was assassinated. So
Why is it all the people that I think are doing the right thing get assassinated and the ones I think aren't doing the right thing don't get assassinated?
because the world is full of mostly shitty people,
Ugh.
or people who are too afraid to stand up to the mostly shitty people.
And
It's
the
horrible.
beliefs that we hold tend to be nonviolent
That's true.
and try to.
That is true, because
achieve
that should never
peace.
be an answer.
Yeah.
But I guess the other side, doesn't matter who they shoot.
They don't
And of
care.
course
they have
they-
no morals.
Yeah. And they claim to be, Christians and
Yeah.
upstanding people.
One
and
of
then
my
they-
biggest issues with fucking Christianity, man. And I don't judge, like, if you're Christian, but there's Christian and then there's that alleged Christian.
See, and I just have to make that distinction in my brain because, there's a reason I don't go to my church, like, actual main worship service anymore. Because it's all of those people.
Well, and
I
okay,
can't stand it.
to be fair, it's not just Christianity. It's one of my biggest
All the
issues
religions.
with
Oh,
religion.
yeah.
Yes.
All the religions have
extremists.
terrible people
Yes,
who
it
pretend.
is one of my biggest issues with religion, and it's not everyone for
Oh,
sure.
no, yeah.
But that is one of my biggest issues.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I keep saying, it's super relevant now that these white conservatives try to put up walls. And, yeah, I have a lot of problems with that sort of thinking. And we were talking earlier, I was driving over here to record this, and I saw a truck that had an LGBT sticker on it. I was like, oh, okay. But it had the Statue of Liberty, a gun, beer, and Trump. And I was like, how?
The Statue of Liberty, who was an icon for immigrants coming into this country.
A gift
What?
from France.
I was about to
What
say,
an
a gift from France.
What an ironic
Yeah.
choice. Someone doesn't know their
And
history.
literally,
Well, and also, Trump isn't a
Read.
Christian. Like, he avidly speaks out that real religion is dumb. I mean, if you listen to him talk about it ever...
Ugh,
I-
listening to him talk upsets me in general.
Oh, I lose brain cells if I listen to him talk.
I try though, because I have to be informed, but also I'm like, It's like, you know, in Charlie Brown when it's like, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I literally can't. I cannot wait for November because I want to vote him out.
Oh, but we're trying to postpone the elections because everything's so bad right now, but we can send our children back to school.
That's how a dictatorship starts.
Right? Ugh.
Dick in chief.
Don't get us fucking started, people.
I'm just trying to teach my kids, and it's going to be so hard this year.
I know.
I just want to be a good teacher, and the world is so just confusing.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I don't even... I don't know how we're going to function.
I'm just going to eat more cobbler. Okay, keep
Okay.
going, Bree.
I'm almost done with history, so here's an interesting tidbit. English is the official language in Georgia, but the islands off of Georgia's southern coast speak a distinct dialect called Gula, which is still English, but I believe it's influenced by Central and West African languages.
It's called Gullah.
Gullah, okay.
Because Gullah Gullah Island, my favorite
that's
90s
right.
TV show.
Oh, yes, okay.
My favorite childhood TV show.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that Gullah Gullah is actually like Gullah is a
dialect.
dialect of African Americans, like
Yeah.
descendant from
yeah,
Africa.
I completely
Americans.
forgot about
Dang.
Gullah Gullah Island.
Yep. I just remember the frog in the family, and my mom would make me a peanut butter and fluff sandwich, and I'd watch Gullah Gullah Island and eat my sandwich, and
Peanut butter
man,
and
life
fluff
was good.
sandwiches.
Life was good. I'd have some juicy juice.
Ooh.
Oh, oh my god, that sounds like a perfect afternoon. Still,
Can we get gluten-free bread and make peanut butter and fluff sandwiches?
as long as we get juicy juice,
If we can find
Juicy
it.
juice, man.
I'll find
Right?
it.
No shit.
I will.
But this dialect is characterized by an invariable form of be and a lack of personal pronouns.
Oh,
Like be, as in like to be. That be.
interesting.
Yeah. But things to do /see. Alliance Theater is a Tony Award winning theater.
Yeah.
There's
Yes, it is.
Atlanta Magic Theater, which
Uh-huh.
magic, fun. Center for Puppetry Arts.
Aw.
Dad's Garage Theater Company, which is an improv comedy theater.
Amazing.
Yes. Stone Mountain Park. The Krog Street Tunnel, which is an underground alternative art museum kind of deal. Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Park. And a ton more. And I'm going to put the link on the blog.
Awesome.
Okay, so Gullah Gullah Island technically takes place off the coast of South Carolina,
Gotcha.
1994 to 1998.
That was our childhood.
Yeah.
All right. So for lore, Georgia has become known as the quote-unquote land of zombies and vampires.
Woo!
Thanks to shows like The Vampire Diaries and The Walking Dead, as well as the movie Zombieland.
Wait, does Vampire Diaries take place in Georgia?
I don't
I thought it was like Massachusetts
yeah,
or something.
so the show it's supposed to be like East Coast.
Oh, but the boys were in the Civil War in Georgia,
Yeah.
weren't they?
Yeah.
One of my people that I direct was in that show.
Yep.
The vaguest way I can
Hey.
say anything without naming names, but he's on IMDb, so
He also attends one of my feeder schools,
Nice.
also
being super vague.
he's
As,
a precious baby angel. Okay,
Oh, I have a video of him dancing for convocation rehearsal.
so cute.
They may, I could be wrong, but they may have also recorded.
No, they recorded in Canada, just like every other show,
Oh,
because you can
that's
record in
right,
Canada for
which is
free.
true.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, forgot about that. Okay, but those aren't the only mythical creatures that Georgia has to offer. So, fairy crosses. Yeah.
Yay.
Legend says that a race of angels or fairies cried when they heard about Jesus Christ's death, and their tears turned to stones, which resulted in the fairy crosses, which are scientifically known as storolites. They're stones that are formed in the shape of crosses, and they're supposed to be good luck, bringing protection, fortune, and good health.
Sure.
Fannin County is famous for having one of the largest concentrations of fairy crosses around the world, and there are actually very few places where they can be found all over the world. Another story suggests that the crosses formed from the tears of the Cherokee as they wept on the Trail of Tears.
Oh.
Yeah. Crybaby Bridge in Columbus, Georgia, which fucking close enough. In the 1800s, there was a poor farmer family. They expected a 5th child. The father knew they couldn't feed it, and he arranged for the doctor to get rid of it right after it was born. So the doctor took the baby and dropped it over a bridge, and so now they say if you drive to the bridge on a cloudless night with a full moon and sprinkle baby powder around your car, turn your engine and lights off for 10 minutes, you'll hear a baby crying and see baby footprints in the baby powder.
Okay, first of all, a newborn baby cannot walk.
Yeah.
So this brings us back to the ghost.
I know.
Can they make
That brings us back to so many other issues.
Can they just walk?
I'm telling you, they
Can
just
they
take their
hover?
fingers and make like footprints to fuck with
Okay,
people.
so that's such
Yeah.
a sad story, and that happened a lot.
Yeah, infanticide was like a big
Well,
thing.
and you want to know the worst thing? Is that a lot of these families had to do it because that baby was going to die.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like,
He's
that's
gonna die
horrible.
anyway.
Yeah.
Better make it quick.
That's horrible, and I have thoughts about
Yeah.
other things that can prevent that, but we're not going to talk any more politics today, but super sad.
Yeah. Birth control. Y'all are fucking up my birth control, you bitches. Okay. It should not be $3,000 fucking dollars.
Guys, kumbaya is a Gullah word.
Really?
That
It
makes sense.
means come by here.
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
That's so cute.
Sorry, I've been researching Gullah Gullah Island this whole time.
I'm going to teach that to my kids this semester.
That's cute.
Healing water.
Oh, my
Indian Spring
Lord,
State Park in
my
Flavilla
Lord.
has what is considered one of the best healing springs. The park is one of the oldest
I
state
should
parks
go.
in the U.S.
Bro,
It may smell a bit, but the water is rumored to work miracles.
is it
It's
sulfur?
pure mineral water that comes from a spout in a spring house.
Probably has sulfur in it.
Okay, so you can call me a weird, witchy, new agey girl. You can call me someone who really believes in history. I don't care. Hot springs work their magic on my rheumatoid arthritis.
We were
if
at
there's
one
a hot spring,
a year
your
ago.
girl's gonna sit in it, and I'm gonna love it, and then I'll be able to move the next couple of days.
I sit.
If I fits, I sits, and you know what? Sometimes I don't fit, and I'm not an easy person to fits in things, but I make it work because I swear hot springs are magical.
Well, it's a year ago. We were at the hot springs in Colorado.
Ugh,
and
so nice.
Oh, it was
so nice.
good.
Olive is eating something out of the pan, and I think it's the chicken again. Might be a
Olive!
cobbler.
Hang on, I'm gonna yell for my husband. Colin!
Yeah?
She eating the chicken!
Okay, sorry.
She eating the chicken!
This better stay in.
She's so naughty.
Sometimes you have to be a little.
No, she does not have to be the chicken eater.
We're still recording. We're all muted.
I'm not.
I am muted now.
Because I wanted to get
Oh.
me being the devious one who has to record everything.
I thought I saw
She
you
eating
hit
the
the button. Why are
chicken.
words so hard?
Words are really hard.
They're so fucking hard. I got my degree essentially in words.
Me too.
And that's so hard.
Except mine are sung words, which makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah. Okay. The Curse of the Haunted Pillar. Am I good on that one?
Pillar?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a haunted pillar in Augusta, Georgia. It sat in the middle of the Augusta market. And Angelica. Fuck.
Eliza!
And Peggy wanted to preach next to the pillar. Peggy's the best.
Becky's a gift.
Well, if we did this, we all know that I would be Eliza, Carrie would be Angelica,
Yeah,
and Brie would be
100%
Peggy, and
Peggy.
Mariah. We know.
Can we?
Halloween. I'm just saying.
Fuck yeah, I want to be
Corsets?
Peggy for Halloween.
We'll have another theme party because
We're
One of
already
our
supposed to
themed
be the
dinners.
Sanderson sisters and Rocky.
One of our
and-
themed dinners,
Oh
though.
my
We could do a
gosh.
Hamilton themed dinner and watch
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes. Oh my god, yeah.
And for Halloween, we have to do Hocus Pocus and be the
Yes.
Sanderson sisters.
I put a spell on you.
Yes. Okay, so this haunted pillar. It's a haunted pillar. Okay, so when that dude was not allowed to preach because of the authorities, he put a curse on the town, saying everything would be blown away except for the pillar. A freak tornado flew through the market and tore down everything but the pillar.
Okay.
So counts going back to the 60s show that anyone who tries to move the pillar is killed.
Oh,
Yeah.
so don't move the pillar.
yeah, don't fuck with it. Leave it alone.
But is it like anyone who just like, so they have to, have the plans to like destroy it? See, I was like, I'm wondering, like someone tried to push it, would they die? Or is it like legit plans?
You gotta have that one child going up and like, I touched the pillar. Oh, Finding Nemo. My little brother, so my sister and I would take care of him when he was really little.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how many times we watched that fucking movie?
So many.
I literally had the whole fucking thing memorized. My sister and I would be walking through the store going, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. Swim. So there's that. It was maddening. Okay.
I love to swim. Oh, I love to swim.
Oh my god, this is gonna be the longest episode ever. Okay, Fort Mountain. So this young kid went to Fort Mountain in Georgia and asked his friend to take a picture of him. And apparently, when the friend took a picture, he screamed and fainted, then died 2 days later in the hospital. In the picture, it showed the image of a ghostly woman next to the boy.
Oh.
And my last one is the old Lawrenceville jail. In 1840, a slave owner tried to attack a slave named Alec when he was in his sleeping quarters.
Uh-huh.
And the slave owner fell off of a ladder and impaled himself on a sword.
Oh, shit.
I feel like that's a bit somewhere, like, oh, look, a sword, or something.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, Alec was falsely accused of his master's murder and was sentenced to death. He was chained by his ankles and wrists to the floor of his cell right before he was hung.
Uh-huh.
And people say they can still feel his presence and hear his sad song.
Oh,
Yeah, super sad.
that is super sad.
Yeah. Hey, that fucker deserved to impale himself on a sword for trying to kill the dude for not doing anything and also for enslaving him in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, fuck.
Oh, so sad.
I miss the story, so continue.
I'm done. That's the end of my lore.
Nice.
All right. So, picture this. Oh, it's
She's setting a scene.
I'm picturing it.
about to get real sad. So,
Are you feeling it, Kronk? Oh, I'm feeling it.
get your jokes out now because it's about to get real
Me
brutal.
Saturday night.
All right.
Oh, I'm feeling it.
All right.
Us as we watch the Atlanta child murder documentary. We'll talk about that.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right. So, it's in the middle of a cold December night. And sorry, my phone went black as soon as I said that.
It's chilly.
And you are sound asleep on the 10th floor of a luxury hotel. Then suddenly, around 3 a.m., you wake to the smell of smoke. You'll jolt out of bed, quickly dress in warm clothes, and run to the hallway where it's absolute chaos. There is smoke everywhere, and no one can get down the only staircase because the smoke is so thick.
Eeh.
You begin to panic.
Yep.
Where can you go to get safe? You go to your window, and the fire department is just arriving, but they can't get to you because their equipment is not tall or strong enough.
Yeah.
Do you jump? Do you wait for the fire to envelop you?
Ugh.
Could you make a rope from your bed sheets and try to climb down?
I know.
I
what
would just
happens
jump.
and I forgot.
This was the case for many who stayed at the Weinkauf Hotel. Flashback to 1913. In the heart of Atlanta at 176 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia, the 15-story Weinkauf Hotel opened its doors. Of course, it skipped floor 13. It was a massive structure for its time and deemed fireproof by the city, as it was built of brick and stone. So the exterior was fireproof,
Okay.
but the
I learned from
interior was
London.
not.
Okay.
Of course, at this time, there were no fire escapes, fire doors, or sprinklers in the buildings, and the main way to alert guests was by their room phone, so after the fire destroyed the wiring, they could no longer communicate with the guests. You can see where this will lead. It's very Titanic.
Yeah.
On December 7th, 1946, which is the 5-year anniversary of Pearl Harbor, if that date sounded familiar to you, at 2:48 a.m., the deadliest hotel fire in U.S. history broke out on the 5th floor. According to the plaque outside the hotel, for 2.5 hours, Atlanta firefighters and others from nearby towns battled valiantly in the cold to save the majority of the 280 guests. But their ladders reached only the 8th floor, and their nets were not strong enough to withstand the jumps of more than 70 feet. I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah.
To add fuel to the flame, metaphorically, of course, there was only one central staircase that ended up acting as sort of a chimney for the flames.
Yeah.
So everyone above the flames were being funneled smoke. 119 of the 280 guests lost their lives. About a third of them jumped from windows trying to escape. The rest died of asphyxiation or were burned alive.
Yeah. In that situation, I feel like jumping may not be.
They were throwing their children ahead of them.
We will get there.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got a lot. So 30 of the victims were students from across Georgia who had come to Atlanta to attend the YMCA's youth assembly at the Capitol. Yeah, so I'm going to start getting into some of the specific cases. So a woman on the 5th floor was clinging for life on a window ledge when a fireman reached her, but as they were on their way down the ladder, another woman jumped from a higher floor and knocked them all off the ladder, and all 3 of them fell to their deaths.
Damn.
A lot happened on the 7th floor. One woman and her 2 children were met with a ladder to help them down, but in her frenzied state, she threw her son and daughter into the air before jumping herself. A newspaper had the following to say about the horrific sight. Quote, "Her nightgown shone white against the flames behind her as she stood on the window ledge high above the street. Then it too caught fire. She jumped, but missed the net stretched by the firemen. She landed astride overhead wires. There she hung in flames. Finally, her
Aw.
body broke loose and toppled to the ground." End quote. Also on the 7th floor, a girl shouted, I hope to live," as she jumped. Now, she did survive. She only broke a hip, an arm, and a leg. This was a pretty neat story. Major Jake Cahill and his wife were both staying on the 7th floor in a room next to his elderly mother. He sealed the transom in his room, but he couldn't reach his mother's room because of the flames, so he waited for the ladder to reach the 7th floor window ledge of their room. He climbed down and immediately went to the building next door, the Mortgage Guarantee Building, and found a room on their 7th floor that was closest to his mother's. Then he found a sturdy plank that could reach the wine cough, and he was able to crawl across and bring his mother back
Damn.
to the neighboring building where she was safe.
Damn.
Aw.
Going up to the 8th floor, a woman was on the window ledge, desperate for someone to save her 4-year-old son. She threw the little boy into the air, and the boy was caught by one of the spectators, so
Oh
not
my
a
gosh,
fireman.
that's amazing.
So one of the spectators caught her
Yeah.
son. She jumped seconds later, but was killed in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay, but
But the little boy was saved.
her last thing she did was save her
Yeah.
son, which, so like, I know that's horribly sad. It's like Naya Rivera
Yeah.
from, like, it's so sad, but can you imagine the last thing you do is saving your child?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what a noble
Yeah.
and such a motherly way to go. It's
Yeah.
horribly sad, but
Oh, yeah, these are all just tragic. I really wanted to drink as I was reading this, but I didn't, so I'm proud of myself for that. Remember that scene I painted for you at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
Well, one man jumped from the 10th floor, but missed the safety net by inches,
Oh, damn.
and was obviously
Deadass, that
killed.
would be me, though, because I have no,
Yeah.
like, anything, and I can't tell,
yeah.
Well, and I mean,
and I have
when
shit
you're
luck.
when you're jumping, I mean, you would probably have no gauge of how hard to jump, especially falling from that high. I mean, that's 10 stories high. Crazy. So W. Frank Weinkauf was the owner of the building before he ended up selling it and retiring, but he still lived in the Weinkauf, just in his own little suite. And so he continued his retirement there, and he died in the hotel believing that Atlanta's finest hotel was completely fireproof.
Damn.
Yeah. Up on the 14th floor, a couple was trapped, but they were determined to survive, so they ended up crawling out of their window and into the next room where the transom was already closed and joined the couple that was already there and barricading the door. The 4 of them pushed a mattress against the door and soaked it with water, and they survived. All 4 of them survived by soaking the mattress for 2 hours
Damn.
until they were saved.
That's impressive, though.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Some of the stories didn't have floors associated with them. I tried to pretty much go in order, but here are some of the ones that did not have specific floors listed. So there was a family who tried to seal off the room and hide in the bathroom, and they tried running the faucet so that way they could fight off the flames and keep the bathroom cooler. But the water was so hot, the room was so hot that the water just turned to steam.
Damn.
The toilet had exploded,
Oh.
as
shit.
many others did.
Yeah.
And the man was found asphyxiated with his head in a shower, and his wife was found lying dead, holding on to their dead children. One woman decided to make a rope out of her bed sheets and began to lower herself to the fireman's ladder a couple stories below. But then another woman flung herself at the makeshift rope, trying to save herself as well,
Yeah.
and made both of them fall to their deaths.
Yep. It's generally how that goes.
Yeah. And as people who have to deal with kind of suicide prevention a lot, you know, suicide spreads kind of like a disease. I was talking with someone this past weekend about how in the military, you won't hear this, but you know, with COVID and everything, there's been a lot of military suicides.
Yeah.
Within this person's singular battalion, they lost 10
Damn.
to
That's
suicide.
horrifying.
And so, similarly, after seeing other guests jump from their windows to their deaths, many joined in thinking that the risk of death was better than burning alive. Of course, in the moment, some may have regretted that decision.
Yeah.
So one girl was trying to reach a ladder 2 floors below her when searchlights swept over her, blinding her as she reached for the ladder.
Shit.
She missed the ladder and fell. She hit the ladder and began spinning out of control, and she fell through the hotel's marquee where she died. The firemen were able to save several guests by catching them in the nets, but some jumped from too high and ripped through the nets
Sure.
and died. Which, of course, is doubly horrific because then they couldn't use the nets to save more people.
Other
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
Yeah. But when
That
there's
was my
mass
first
panic,
thought.
you don't.
Oh, yeah.
You can't- your brain's
process.
Well, that's like that woman that tried to fling herself onto the other bed sheet and ended up killing both her and the woman who made the bed sheet rope thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's
She
panic.
wasn't
You
trying
don't-
to kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, she just wanted to jump, and the bed sheets just couldn't hold both of them. And so, safe to say, the horrific stuff is done. Thank you
Can
for bearing with that.
Imagine being a spectator, though. Like, it would be horrifying to be one of the people, but to see, like, the woman who fell through the marquee, the mom who
Oh, yeah.
fucking fell, lit on fire onto open wires, and, like, then eventually got uncaught and fell down. Like,
Well,
all
I
of
didn't
this.
initially put this in here because it was very graphic, but it was talking about the bodies just laying on the
Yeah.
sidewalks in the
Oh,
back
I
alleys.
think it's
I'm
the
sure.
smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
horrifying.
Well, and also mixed with the burning, and it was
Oh, yeah, I was
there was
about to
one
say.
article that talked about how, you know, it was lush carpeting and wood panels on the walls that all just fueled the flame, and it just made it burn hotter and faster.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine going back in afterwards, which
Oh,
kind of helps
God.
lead me into my next point.
Do they know what caused it?
No,
It wasn't arson or anything. It was an accident.
yeah,
Okay.
because all I know is that it was at 2:48 a.m. and you know they tried calling up to the rooms, but they could only get to so many before the wiring cut out.
And
That
before-
is such an impractical thing anyway, because not only could the wire be burned, but, like, do you know how long it would take to call all these fucking rooms?
Oh yeah,
I meant they're doing.
well, and I
I
mean,
know, but
there were
in
no
the
fire
year,
codes.
they're doing the best so
but
they can.
because of this, fire codes were updated and building codes were updated. And so, I mean, it was tragic, but now we do have the safety
Yeah.
processes to be able to, you know, have fire alarms.
Yeah.
Which we'll touch on in a little bit. And, you know, sprinklers and, you know, alert systems. So that way, you know, for these larger hotels now, because this was only, I think, 120 rooms. So, you know, think of these large hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it had a singular staircase, only one.
Yeah, no.
And it wrapped around its elevators, but of course, when there's a fire, you can't use the elevators. And so, imagine how people were having to frantically run down these stairs. People were probably trampled.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Well, yeah, stairs of, like, you hear the stories about 9/11 of people on the stairs. Stairs are
Oh,
never
yeah.
a good spot to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was horrifying to read some of this stuff. And, you know, there was one story about how the front desk clerk, sure we'll call them that, was having to do like a maintenance request for someone. The maintenance guy, you know, went up to the 5th floor and, you know, started chit-chatting and realized, oh, there's fire, ran down. So, of course, the clerk had to go upstairs and double-check everything. And there was just, I mean, it was chaotic. Because they didn't have the technology that we have now, and they didn't have the protocols that we have now.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, this is why we have some of the protocols that we have.
Yeah.
So, throughout the decades, it was remodeled and renamed. In the 1950s, it was renamed Peachtree on Peachtree Hotel. The address is on Peachtree. And then it became a retirement home in the 1960s. And then finally in the 1990s, it became the Ellis Hotel and is now one of the highest rated hotels in Atlanta. Fun fact, the Ellis Hotel is dog friendly and they have a farm-to-table restaurant called Terraced Bistro and Lounge.
I love farm-to-table restaurants, and I love dogs.
I needed to have that little fun fact thrown in there because...
Yeah, dogs help make everything better.
Oh, yeah. Because now we're getting to the ghosts.
Nice.
As you can imagine.
A lot.
Yeah. I kind of want to stay here, but at the same time, I really don't because, yeah, you can just imagine. So, guests and staff have reported seeing apparitions of frenzied people in hotel halls, smelling mysterious smoke and strange odors. They said the strange odors came from one specific room, and I'm not discounting this. I'm just saying I don't know if they were smelling smoke and just couldn't place it, or if, you know, someone in the room just happened to have really bad BO, or if, you know, there's a leak and something smelled weird.
Yeah.
Hearing screams of women and children and running and general chaos in the hallways, and several guest accounts of disembodied footsteps. Again, don't know if that's separate from the running in hallways. If it was like heavier footsteps and maybe like the firemen going through.
Yeah.
Because who knows if firemen died going up there.
Oh, sure. First responders always.
Yeah.
Risking
Have a
their
risk,
lives.
yeah.
Apparently you can still see faces in the windows that witnesses say are screaming in terror.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but I was just thinking how every time you do your section, I just think of Eddie Redmayne singing and Les Mis. And then you said Phantom Faces, and I was like,
tables.
exactly.
Where my friends will sit no more.
Every time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a good song, though.
It is.
Should be my little theme song on here. Anyway, workers have claimed that tools have disappeared on the job while they were remodeling. Of course, this could just
Always.
be human error, but...
But remodeling, everyone loves to mess with remodels, including the ghost.
Oh, yeah. But also, as someone who's had
Hide
ghosts...
this wrench in the wall.
Right. Like, as someone who has had ghosts, like, mess with my shit before, I don't doubt it. Now, granted, it could also just be the workers playing pranks on each other because they knew the history. But,
I would 100% be fucking with somebody.
oh, at Texas Tech, we have a ghost in Himley Hall, and the ghost of Gene Himley will absolutely mess with you. Like, you place a prop somewhere, the next day it's going to be somewhere else. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the last one in, the first one back, it's going to be somewhere else. According to one account, they, quote, stayed here in July of 2016, had a couple of weird things happen, the most significant of which were muffled voices of men shouting and heavy footsteps running up and down the hall in the middle of the night. Then, probably the creepiest occurrence is the fire alarm will randomly go off at 2:48 a.m., which is the time that the fire started.
No,
And of course, if
thank
you remember,
you.
they did not have fire alarms, so this
Yeah.
is residual energy.
No,
Damn.
So,
thank you.
Again, don't know if I really want to stay here, but it's a really cute hotel.
Yeesh.
Damn.
Yep, so that's the Winecoff Hotel fire, which is now the Ellis Hotel in Atlanta. Yeah, so
Nice.
that's my spooky story.
Spooky.
So that was pretty sad. We're also going to be sad some more.
It's like we have a dark
It's our
podcast or something.
slogan.
Yeah, but like this
That was
is
pretty sad.
Now we're gonna be sad some more.
yeah, I meant this is the murder of several dozen children.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's rough.
So I mentioned this earlier. We are going to be talking about the Atlanta child murders.
Ugh.
There's a lot that goes into this that deals with the criticism of the police, criticism of the lawyers and what they prosecuted, and what the man who was arrested and eventually convicted, whether or not he was the sole person responsible and whether or not he got punishment to get justice for the families. And so we'll talk about that. But real quick, I am going to read off the names of these people before I do a brief overview. So Edward Smith, I may just do first names because they're all little babies.
Yeah.
So Edward Smith was 14. Alfred Evans was 13. Milton Harvey was 14. Yusef Bell was 9. Angel Lanier was 12. Jeffrey was 11. Eric Middlebrooks 14. Christopher Richardson 12. Latanya Wilson 7. Aaron Weiche 10. Anthony Carter 9. Earl Terrell 10. Clifford Jones 12. Darren Glass 10. Charles Stevens 12. Aaron Jackson 9. Patrick Rogers 16. Luby Girder 14. Terry Pugh 15. Patrick Baltazar 12. Curtis Walker 13. Joseph Bell 15. Timothy Hill 13. William Barrett 17. And then these are unquote, quote unquote, adult victims.
Yeah.
Eddie Duncan was 21, Larry Rogers 20, Michael McIntosh 23, Jimmy Ray Page 21, John Porter 28, and Nathaniel Carter 27. Most of these deaths were by strangulation or asphyxiation, but there were also several stab wounds and several gunshot wounds.
Oh my goodness.
There was 1 blunt force trauma and 4 or 5, 6 undetermined.
Oh man.
Yes, and I would like to point out these were all black, almost exclusively male victims. I think there was 2 women. She's
little
7.
children.
Yeah.
2 babies, but most of them were men. Several of these cases are still technically unresolved, and they've recently been opened back up. A lot of them that were not strangulation are still open, and we'll talk about why that is, and the ligature strangulation also are still open, and there's a couple of different reasons for why that is. So, in Atlanta in 1979 through 1981, they're called the Atlanta child murders for the most part, was a series of murders committed in Atlanta, Georgia. Over the 2-year period, at least 28 children, adolescents, and adults were killed. This is just the people that we know about. These are just people with families who were looking for them.
Yeah.
Which we all know that there are always some kids, unfortunately, who slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
So there's at least 28 all around the city of Atlanta. And it was kidnapping and then serial killing, right?
Yeah.
So his name was Wayne Williams. He's an Atlanta native. He was 23 years old at the time of the last murder, was arrested, tried, and convicted of 2 of the adult murders
Ugh.
and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. Okay, so he was jailed. Most of the murders have been attributed to him, although he's not been charged in any of the cases. And Williams maintains his innocent, although they stopped after his arrest. In March 2019, the Atlanta police, under the new mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, opened the cases in hopes that new technology will lead to conviction in the murders that were never resolved. There is pretty strong evidence tying him to many of the children. Not all of them, but there are some forensics evidence ties that we're going to talk about. So, a lot of these kids went missing in very poor neighborhoods in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Poor, predominantly black. Almost all of them, their families noticed that they were missing.
Yeah.
Is this, sorry, I don't mean
That's
to
okay.
interject. Second season of Mindhunter?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yes. I haven't watched the second season of Mindhunter, but I know that's what they're dealing with because one of the characters on that show created the profile that
Yeah.
linked him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't watched it yet, but 100%.
I'm like halfway through and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is sounding familiar.
Yes. And so most of them, parents noticed that they were missing, family members noticed that they were missing, contacted the police. At first, they're like, oh, they're kids, blah, 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 especially poor black kids.
Right.
They just kept going missing. And eventually it caused a full panic. People were terrified.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of going over the basics, and we're going to talk about the documentary that I watched and some of the stories. Because there is a brother of a victim who was almost a victim himself, who talks about it, and
Yeah.
he is such a wonderful speaker, and you can just tell the level of intelligence he has, like
Yeah.
emotional intelligence as well as just normal intelligence, and hearing him talk is fascinating. So these kids are going missing. Some of them, like one little boy was playing hide and go seek, disappeared, right? One kid was walking to the pool, disappeared. Like, these kids are being taken immediately. So what happens is on the bodies, they found evidence. They found German Shepherd dog hair, and they found 3 different fibers that were very distinct. One was like a trilobal green carpet fiber. One was like a silk lavender fiber. And so they were unique. And this is one of the first times that they actually use those fibers, and they actually use mitochondrial DNA testing on the German Shepherd dog hair, and that's how they were able to convict Williams. So media coverage started getting crazy after a while. They instituted curfews, and parents literally were terrified,
Yeah.
trying
I
to protect their
bet.
kids.
Well, they had that recording on TV, which was scary.
So it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Literally started, like, I heard that as it's kind of like a pop culture reference now.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. They started presenting this due to the fact, like, it was 2 years that it was a kid a month would just go missing.
Yeah.
Like, kids who were with
horrifying.
other people, kids whose families were actively trying to protect them.
Yeah.
We have no idea how many kids who didn't have families
Right.
are also missing. And so what would happen was the police, the FBI are doing their best. FBI creates a profile. And what caused a big stir is that the FBI, the profiler, said it was going to be a black man,
Yeah.
which statistically black men are not serial killers.
Right.
But his argument was that there's no way a creepy white guy is getting around this all black neighborhood stealing children.
Well, that's literally where I was at in Mindhunter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You notice someone that stands out that much.
Yep.
And so that was like a whole big thing, is that they're like, well, name a black serial killer. And they're like, well, maybe we have our first one, because it is rare.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
I talked to,
usually white men.
it's almost always white middle-aged men statistically, but there's women serial killers. We talked about the Asian serial killer when we did
Right.
Japan. Like, so it happens. There are certainly anomalies in all backgrounds, ethnicities, and races, but it was very rare. But that was the only way that they could think that a man could get around this community, because people saw him. There's 2 witness accounts of, like, I saw a man I did not recognize.
Yeah.
And that comes into play later. So a lot of the bodies ended up in the river, the Chattahoochee River. And at first they were all found clothed and in different locations, but they think they started realizing that he was leaving forensic evidence. And so a lot of times he would take off their clothes and dump them in the river. And it was not a sexual component. It was forensic countermeasure. He didn't want anything on the bodies. So he was throwing these bodies over the river. The detectives were running out of options. And so there's a bunch of rookie cops on this. But one of the detectives who I watched a couple of interviews with, who seriously seemed to be trying his absolute hardest for these kids. He still, he tears up talking about these children, and he just keeps calling them like these little babies. And he's upset. And so he decided that they were going to stake out the bridges, because they assumed that he had to be throwing bodies off the bridges, because if you threw them on the side, they'd get stuck on the side.
Right.
And so they had cops stationed near all their bridges, and they heard a splash in the water, and they were like, oh my god, it's a body. And that was in May in 1981, and the detectives heard the splash, ran to the bridge, and they saw a white 1970 Chevrolet station wagon turn around and drive back across the bridge. So now they had a car
Yeah.
that clearly just dropped a body. So police cars later stopped the suspect about a half mile from the bridge. So different police cars, right? Because they were networking to try and catch this. 23-year-old Wade Bertram Williams, a supposed music promoter and freelance photographer, was driving the car. It was owned by his parents. Dog hair and fibers recovered from the rear of the vehicles were later used as evidence in the case. As similar fibers were found on some of the victims, they were found to match his dog and the carpet in his parents' house. During questioning, he said he was on his way to audition a woman as a singer. She lived nearby, and so he was looking around, but they didn't find any record of her or of the meeting. He also uses lure a couple other times with some of his older victims to get them to come to him. So Nathaniel Carter, who was 27, was found floating downriver a few miles from the bridge where police had seen the station wagon. So based on the evidence, including the police officers hearing the splash, they believe that he'd killed Carter, disposed of his body. He got caught by the police. They stopped him, noticed gloves, 24-inch nylon cord, and I think there was also a flashlight found in there.
Yeah.
They never took them in to analyze them.
And, like, he allowed them to search his car.
Yeah. He allowed them to search his car, and then the detective's like, we had to let him go. We had nothing to tie him. But he was and legally that is what you have to do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he was pissed that the cops didn't keep the evidence. He's like, what are you doing? You are allowed to seize that.
Yeah.
But we actually had a cop doing the right thing to a black man. But this is the time that we didn't want him to because he was murdering people.
We still wanted him to follow the law.
We still wanted him to follow the law, but damn.
Right.
So there was a bunch of weird circumstances. He had been trying to get young people in predominantly black neighborhoods to audition for his new singing group. He did an FBI administered polygraph and he failed, but it's not admissible, blah, blah, blah. So the carpet were found to match those on 2 of the victims, and additional fibers were matched to other victims. So a witness, Robert Henry, claimed to have seen Williams holding hands and walking with Nathaniel Carter on the night Carter is believed to have died. On June 21st, Williams was arrested. Grand jury indicted him for first-degree murder of Nathaniel Carter and Jimmy Ray Payne, so 2 of the older ones. Even though there was evidence linking, it was all circumstantial to the other people.
Right.
When the news of his arrest was officially released, FBI agent John E. Douglas said that it was Williams. He was looking pretty good for a good percentage of the killings. And he is the person who profiled it as a young black man. This was wildly reported as the FBI effectively declaring Williams guilty, and Douglas was officially censored by the director of the FBI. So he didn't technically declare he was guilty, but he was a profiler who's like, oh, look, this guy is exactly my profile. So they've opened up cases of several of them. A lot of the families were very upset that their child was did not receive justice, and other parents were so relieved that this person was off the streets that they didn't care.
Yeah.
And I think both of those are valid.
Yeah.
And I don't know how a grieving parent deals with things, and I'm certainly not going to pretend that I know what they're possibly going through. So I think both of those are valid. So the KKK was thought to have been involved, and they don't know if they weren't involved in some of the cases.
Yeah.
But a lot of them thought that the KKK would have been more vocal if they were
Right.
killing, because I mean they're a terrorist
Oh,
organization.
yeah. They would have owned up to it.
Yeah,
100%.
but
That's
there
That's what
was
they said. They're like, they would have posted an ad in the paper the next day if they'd done
Yeah.
it.
yeah. But so Charles Sanders of the KKK praised and secretly recorded. So he was praising the fact that someone was murdering young black people, but
Yeah.
he didn't own up to anything. So I think the KKK was probably disgustingly excited about it, but I don't think they were involved. To me, this seems very serial killery.
Right.
And so the profiler believed that he committed many of them. He doesn't think that he committed them all. Unfortunately, it's just so many people that they don't know, and there is a wide range. Like the 2 little girls to me seem so out of character that
Yeah.
I would
Right.
not think. The only thing I could think of is if they were little, like they're very young girls, maybe he didn't realize that they were little girls, and he was
Or
confused.
just crime of opportunity.
But like his whole thing was that, so he was middle class, both his parents were teachers.
Yeah.
So he was middle class and he hated young black men.
Yeah.
He said that they were ruining something, I don't know.
Like
He's
the neighborhood and
the
culture
neighborhood,
and
they
shit, I
were
think.
Yeah.
it's a ravings of a lunatic.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
literally some bullshit thing, but his whole thing was that he wanted to kill young black men that were poor.
Yeah.
Because he was a young black man,
Yeah.
but he was middle class, so he was okay. It was just the poor kids
Yeah.
that were ruining things, and he didn't want them to grow up and ruin things.
Right.
So the two little girls, to me, seem very out of character, especially because there was zero sexual component to this,
Yeah.
which is very rare for a serial killer. I think he was just trying to kill as many young black boys from the
Yeah.
poor neighborhoods that he could get his hands on.
Yeah.
I really think that was his weird mission. It's like bombings or like mass shootings, like you just want to kill as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I think for him it was just kill as many young poor black boys as possible.
Well, an interesting thing that I heard in the podcast that
Uh-huh.
I was listening to. So when they brought him in for questioning and they did the polygraph and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that, and he mentioned how he was in that area the night they heard the body splash because he was supposed to be meeting that girl the next morning. And he was
He
trying
said he
to
was
find
trying
her
to find the
house.
spot.
Yeah, at
so he wouldn't
2
be
o'clock
late.
in the morning. Yeah,
It was 3 a.m.
yeah, like bullshit.
Yeah.
But so when they were talking about that,
Ready to be any time?
they were like, "Oh, it's weird that you were going to be meeting a young female by herself, someone who, like, she was going to meet
Yeah.
you by herself. She never met you before." And he's like, "I'm not a homosexual." And they're like, I didn't say you were. That's kind of the opposite of what I was implying,
Yeah.
actually." So that was also an interesting thing that they brought up.
Yeah, I think he had read about other serial killers, thought that this was a good way to accomplish his mission and get what he thought his mission was heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because there is a lot of talk about, there's only a handful of gay serial killers, but
Mm-hmm.
they like to be talked about. And so I wonder if that's maybe what his thought was, because he was killing all these boys.
Well, and
So-
I also thought it was interesting because you mentioned him holding hands. A suspect,
Yeah.
not a suspect, a witness saying they thought they saw
Yeah,
him
that was the
holding
first time I've
hands.
heard about it. So maybe
Yeah.
he was gay, or maybe he was pretending to be gay to lure
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it seems that his MO changed to older people eventually. But I think he may have just gotten a taste for killing. Like, he started out with this, quote, mission.
Yeah.
And then he was just like, I'm just going to kill everyone. Well, because he was a small man. He was
Yeah.
not a large man. And so strangling someone is not easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think his first ones were shootings, and then he eventually found out what he liked, which is
Yeah.
disgusting. But I think he is definitely guilty of a large portion of these crimes, and I think he was just warming up.
Yeah.
I think he's not admitting to the child murder, so he doesn't get murdered in jail.
Yeah.
The fair.
I truthfully believe that is what's happening.
Yeah. Well,
Because
because they said he was smart.
Yeah, and he's very, very
Yeah.
intelligent. And
Yeah.
most serial killers like to claim what they've done. I truly think that him moving to adult killers was to try and get, when he was caught, for him to be able to have some deniability so that he was not murdered in jail. He's extremely intelligent. That makes sense to me. He was mission oriented, not sexually motivated, which
Yeah.
means he doesn't need that praise, and I think he's trying to save his own ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only logical thing that makes sense to me, because it is different, but I think he just found a weird, like, he just wanted to check people off. Kind of like with my Moscow murderer.
Yeah.
He was just checking people off. He had a
Yeah.
goal. He had a goal, and it was as many people as possible, and so he was just checking them off his list, truthfully.
Yeah.
And that same mindset as Moscow, because it was just numbers.
Yeah.
And not it's not like he stalked his victims ahead of time like a lot of serial killers do. There wasn't
Forethought.
forethought, but there was certainly a murder kit in his car, and he certainly knew how to get these young people to come with him.
Yeah.
He had a whole ruse and everything, but
Yep. Crime of opportunity.
yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes in. It's too much. I mean, there are entire TV shows, movies, whole podcasts dedicated just to this. So that is a brief skimming of the top, but that's kind of all the main points. I think there's probably like 2 or 3 people involved in the actual murders. Like I said, those little girls do not make any sense to me
Yeah.
Right.
for what he was trying to do. I think he probably switched to the older people, but like the 9-year-old feels out of place just because most of them were teenagers.
Right.
But that he could have looked older or something as well. I don't begin to understand how this guy's brain works, but and how he was able to get around is because he looked like he belonged in that neighborhood.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the boy, I forget his name now.
The one where
In
the
the
little
documentary.
brother saw.
Yeah.
So I think his older brother was Patrick, and I think his last name was Baltazar. I think that was the
Patman.
Patrick.
Okay.
It was one of the Patricks, because
Yeah.
Patman.
Yeah, because he called him Patman. So his brother was 16 when he was killed, and he was 10 years younger. He was baby.
Mm-hmm.
Baby, little baby.
Yeah, he was like 7.
Yeah, and he was outside, and the guy who took his brother, so Williams, came up for him, and he knocked on a neighbor's door and was able to get inside. So he truly thinks that he came back for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's
How scary.
Mm-hmm.
it's horrifying, and just hearing him talk about it and hearing his thoughts about it, because like I said, some of those parents were just so thankful that this man was off the street that they didn't care if their child's name wasn't on it, because they felt enough closure to protect other people, and other people were like, no, my kid deserves the same justice, which both, like I said, both so valid. I'm just glad this motherfucker is not out on the streets.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and like I said, so he was up for parole, and I think it was October of 2019. He was denied parole, and his next parole hearing is like November of 2027.
Yeah.
But the brother was talking about how there was a radio station that went on the air. Yeah, you go
There
ahead.
was a whole revival movement
Yeah.
to try and get him out, because people were like, oh, he was just a young black man who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this guy's like, he was a young black man killing a bunch of young black men.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's
He
a
was
killer.
like, he literally came back for me.
He's like, I literally saw him. He came back for me. Like, no, this guy is a sick psychopath. You should not feel bad for him saying that, like, he is guilty.
because he got like an hour of airtime every week or something.
Yeah, he had a radio show talking about how he was innocent. No,
No.
you're a serial killer. Can you imagine being the families? Like, hundreds of people were personally affected by these murders.
And you could see the impact it had on him, just him
Yeah,
by himself.
it meant.
Yeah.
So it's on Amazon Prime, and it's like $6 for the 3 episodes, but it's a really well made documentary.
Yeah, it is.
And I feel like they really talk to people who are from all different parts of the case, and I feel like they're pretty they were not told one way to talk about it or another. So it's very good.
You loved that one guy. He was so fucking blunt.
Oh yeah, the one cop.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He was just like, this is stupid, we're doing it my way. And he did, and he fixed it.
Yeah.
Bless. But, like, listening to this man talk
Yeah.
about his childhood and losing his brother and all these, it's...
In the scene showing him tossing the football back and forth with his son.
Oh, with his son.
Oh my
So he has a
God.
little boy now, and he's like,
Yeah.
I do not let my son out of my sight.
Yeah.
And he's like, my son's always like, Daddy, why do you got to be so strict? And he's like, I don't care. I will be as strict as I need to be. I'm not
Yeah.
letting nothing will happen to my son.
Yeah.
Like, he is so
Heartbreaking.
scared, and he's like
Yeah.
playing football with this little
Yeah.
boy.
Well, and it's even more heartbreaking because his brother was like, be careful, you gotta be careful, like they're out here kidnapping kids and like
Little
was
kids,
looking
but his
out
brother
for
didn't
him.
think it was going to be a problem because
Yeah,
he was
and
older.
then he's the one who got taken. Like, usually he would meet him at the bus stop after school to walk him back to, like,
his
protect him,
brother.
and he wasn't there that day.
And so he walked home by himself.
Oh my
So
goodness.
And so
sad.
he's like, I knew someone got him because that was the only way he wouldn't be there to protect me.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on the couch just sobbing.
Oh.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's really good. It's worth the $6 I paid to watch it.
It
I will
is.
tell you that. But I don't know, it was such an emotional true crime documentary
Yeah.
that I felt was very informative, but
Yeah.
like it left a profound impact on me. Like I felt very connected because the stories were so beautifully told. And like I said, you had both sides. Families who were angry and families who were still mourning, both of which are totally valid. I get
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But you had both of them talking about what happened, and
Yeah.
so you
and
get
the mothers, yeah.
yeah, you had mothers, siblings, I meant friends, like hearing their friends talk about, like some of these kids had like 2 or 3 friends go missing.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yep.
So it's very good, but they haven't had any, like the child murders quote of that spree stopped because Atlanta had never had any child murders that
Yeah.
weren't family related.
Right.
So like there are horrible cases of like a parent getting upset and like hitting their kid so hard that it causes them to die,
Right.
someone pushing a kid so that they fall. Like, there are horrible cases of child death. You know, siblings get into a fight, or a kid gets in the middle of a parent, like, things like that, which are horrible murders, but they are not serial killings. That is a completely different
Yeah.
process. Those are passion-fueled accidents that are murder versus murder for the sake of murder.
Yeah.
To me, they're so different. I mean, they're horribly tragic. But Atlanta, the detective was like, we had never seen anything like this, and it's been, they still have murders, but there hasn't been anything like
It
this.
took them 8 missing
missing
dead
kids.
children to connect it and look into it as a serial.
Yeah.
So one of the detectives was like, this is a serial killer. He had a little notebook. And he's like, this has to be a serial killer. And he went in, and his boss was like, no, it's not. And if you don't want to go to being a traffic cop, you got to stop thinking that way.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a serial killer here. I think that was the blunt guy.
I think so. Cause
And then later
wrote
they
a
put him
letter
on the case.
and tried to submit it to his lieutenant.
Yeah.
His lieutenant threatened him and was like, this never sees the light of day.
And then he's like, saw the light of day and called the bastard. Like,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. It's very good. You should watch that documentary. I can't,
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can find exactly what it's called. But it was good. Bree, anything you want to add? Because I know you listen to the podcast.
Yeah. So I will note that, and it talks about this a little bit in the documentary, but it really hit on it in the podcast. So the mayor at the time was a black man.
As
And-
part of a diversification.
Yes.
Right.
And he wanted to make the police force more brown. The chief of police was also black.
That was a quote.
Yeah,
That's an exact
that
quote.
was a quote. Yeah. And so they brought in a bunch of rookie African American recruits, but there was also a scandal in Atlanta with the police department in terms of giving recruits the answers to the tests so that they could pass, and passing
Because
them
they wanted more diverse.
Right.
yeah. So passing them when they shouldn't have passed. And so also after hearing the quote from the mayor saying they wanted to make the police force more brown, the OGs essentially, who were white males, were like, well, that means that, you know, there's no upward movement for me here, so
Right.
I'm a retire by. So it was literally a bunch of rookie cops, unprepared, who had not necessarily passed the test, or maybe this scandal was at a different time. Regardless, it was a bunch of rookie cops who were not prepared for this. And again, like Catherine said, Atlanta hadn't seen like a serial killer, especially of children, prior to this. So even the OGs probably wouldn't have realized it at first. But it's even worse off when it's a bunch of rookies who know not shit, especially about a serial killer.
Right.
So that was a big issue from the beginning. And then they struggled, obviously, with the higher-ups saying, like, no, you can't claim this as a serial killer and all this other stuff. And then the FBI didn't have jurisdiction until later on with the kidnapping. And so they had to, like, wiggle their way in there that way. And they could, like, advise and all this other shit. So it was a cluster from the start. And they had a lot of things working against them. And so a lot of kids were missing for a very long time before the police force finally started, labeling it what it was. And a lot of that had to do with parents and just like the neighborhood upheaval.
It was those mamas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
You don't mess
They
with
formed
someone's
committees
kids.
and shit, and they were
The
like
moms
marching.
made them listen.
Yeah.
Thank God for moms.
Right.
So
I
this
feel
was
like they did a really good job in Mindhunter with this. Because, I mean...
Mindhunter is a well-made TV show,
It is.
except for the fact that I'm supposed to believe Jonathan Groff is straight. Other than that, because I cannot.
No.
8th grade Catherine did, but grown-up Catherine does not. So it's just called The Atlanta Child Murders. It's called Into the Woods, The Devil's Work, and The Requiem are the 3 episodes. It was made in 2019, and it's an investigation discovery.
Yeah.
Made for Prime. It is very good. It's also beautiful. Like, the cinematography is stunning. It was, like, way prettier than it should have been when they're talking about murders of a bunch of little kids, but it's very good. So I would recommend it.
Okay.
That's all I had.
That's all I have.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your tour of Atlanta.
Bye.
Bye.
Follow us on Instagram at Darkside Tour Guides and on Twitter at Darkside Guides. Give us a like on Facebook at Darkside Tour Guides. Visit the blog at darksidetourguide.wordpress.com or email us at darksidetourguides@gmail.com.